Right, let's get on to what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what has been said yesterday around Erik ten Hag and his future at Manchester United. So very interesting stories yesterday that came in, both from reasonably good sources, to be fair. One was Laurie Whitwell, who writes for The Athletic, and one was Simon Stone, who writes for the BBC. And this is what Simon Stone had to say. Unlikely that Ten Hag is sacked at the next international break. Don't worry in the chat. We're going to talk about 2028 and the title and whether it's possible, because I have a theory on that. But Simon Stone, it's unlikely Ten Hag is going to get sacked at the next international break. However, the hand could be forced if results don't improve. Thank you very much, Simon Stone. Don't know why I said that. So unlikely Ten Hag is sacked at the next international break, but could be forced if results don't improve. 1 minute here. So yeah, unlikely Ten Hag is sacked at the next international break, but hand could be forced for INEOS if results don't improve. But Laurie Whitwell goes on to say there is no great urge to change things regarding the manager. Football leadership want to see attacking football, but they are not telling Ten Hag how his team should play. Wilcox was brought in to provide a technical eye at the training ground and assist Ten Hag on a daily basis in a way John Murtough never did. Ten Hag can now bounce ideas off Wilcox, who then links up with the executive level. Wilcox will not be telling Ten Hag how to coach or how his team should play. Leadership have thoughts. These are shared with Ten Hag. United want a high-pressing team who can dominate possession, which is obviously what Ten Hag wants anyway. There'd be big surprise if Ten Hag was to lose his job at the next international break. There are no rumblings about a successor. If Ten Hag was sacked, the club would take a separate view on Rene Haak and Ruud van Nistelrooy. United exhausted manager options in May and June, and there are no new compelling candidates yet. Would be surprised if Ten Hag loses his job, and obviously things could add pressure to Ten Hag if he fails to win against Spurs, Porto and Villa. So, look, that's where we are. It's news. It's a news show, and it might not be the news that you want to hear, but effectively it's coming in from good sources. And I think when you summarise that, to me it sounds like a club brief, because it's coming in from Simon Stone and another journalist. As I said, they're reasonable sources, and they've both got the same information, and I think we're long enough in the tooth on this channel as a community to know when it's a club brief, and that's a club brief. So the club are basically putting out there what the situation is and look, I will applaud it. It might not be what you want, it might not be what I want, but I will applaud it, because I think sometimes we are left as fans to feed on shit. And we are mushrooms kept in the dark. And I think a club brief at this time is probably quite advisable. We are not run by the Glazers in the footballing side anymore. We are run by INEOS. They are, Sir Jim Radcliffe is a Man United fan. He will be feeling the same things. And your ownership and leadership, when you're trying to do things like knock Old Trafford down, you've got to be in communication with your fans better than you have been over the last 10 years. So I'm always going to be positive when you can to detect and smell a club brief, because it gives you information that sometimes you pick up a certain newspaper and you're like, I don't know whether this is true or whether it's a bitter journalist. Whereas in this situation, we know that this is true. So effectively, what we're getting is that right now, there is absolutely no appetite to sack Erik ten Hag. It would take something massive over the next 3 games for Ten Hag to be in any danger. And if he was in danger, they'd have to look at people like Rene Haak and Van Nistelrooy, because there is no managerial candidate out there at the moment that they have any appetite for, because it's everybody the same that they looked at in the summer, which would be an admission of failure if they had to sack Ten Hag and go for somebody they didn't want in the summer anyway. So I think, look, it's probably not a massive shock to any of you. It's certainly not a shock to me. I mean, I think the international break could be uncomfortable. It could be very uncomfortable, depending on what happens in the next 3 games. But it doesn't look like anything would change at that point anyway. And as I've said before, it's not really. If I'm being honest, I said this a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? The games that sack you aren't really Spurs and Villa. It's Brentford. It's Leicester. They're the games that sat. I look at Solskjaer. It was Leicester. It was Watford. They were the games that did him. I think Liverpool did him damage. I think these games against Spurs and Villa, they can deliver the punch. You know, you look at AJ last week against Dubois. AJ was losing that fight as soon as he went down in round 1, but he stumbled on. And I think, you know, you could get one of those punches in round 1 on Sunday, and you can know he's gonna lose his job, but it won't be Villa or Spurs that sack him. It'll be Brentford or it'll be Leicester in November. It'll be something like that. I don't think it's very rare that these big games are the ones that do it. Although people will say, well, it was Liverpool that sacked Mourinho, wasn't it? But I think Mourinho's was very different because that was a player thing, wasn't it? MMA Takedown says, Football X Rotterdam fans, no patient, no vision. So many people get in the comments in this morning. Absolutely get into it. You're very, very welcome. There's a lot to talk about. Statistically, it seems we've improved a lot on most fronts, especially interceptions and shot conceded, but we're second worst team in finishing stats, says Ishan. Yeah, well, you know what? I want to talk about winning the title in 2028 because obviously I haven't had my say on that, but I think what is very, very clear to me with this new leadership structure is that they're not in a rush to make decisions, whether it's signings, whether it was the decision over Ten Hag, whether it was getting Dan Ashworth in. We have very rarely been quick in the INEOS tenure, and you've got to look at stuff like that. You know, if you work in a place, whatever place that is, and you get a new manager and you don't know who they are, you know, you're going to sum them up over a period of time, find out what, you know, makes them happy, what gets them irritated, you know, what their leadership style is. And I think with INEOS, you've got to, surely you are, as an individual, starting to look at what they do. And what I've noticed is, and it stands to reason, you know, Sir Jim Radcliffe is an effective businessman over many, many years. He's a billionaire. I don't need to analyse what they did with cycling or what he does with his petrochemicals business. Look at what he said. He said, we'd rather walk to the right decision than run to the wrong decision. And I think that they will take their time. They're measured. So I'd be very, very surprised on a personal level, having not spoken to anybody from INEOS about this, I'd be very surprised if we saw Man United get beat by Spurs and Ten Hag get sacked on Monday. I don't think we're going to do that type of thing. I think we're going to be a lot more measured. And, you know, as Ishan said, you know, there are a few indicators of positivity. There are improvements in possession. There's definitely improvements in chances created. There's definitely improvements in relation to the amount of shots we're conceding. In fact, I wrote this down. This time last year, we were 19th in the league for shots conceded, and we're now 6th. I mean, that is an improvement, isn't it? You know, there are key performance indicators improvements, but you know what I think about stats? Most of them are bullshit because it's the eye test that counts, and the eye test says we haven't won as many games as we should have done, and you can't keep hiding behind that. I think they will take a long-term approach. If we were playing bad football with bad results, you'd be in more trouble. I think he's in less trouble because he's getting, you know, we are improving, even though the results are a little bit, you know, bad, to be honest. But look, I think the plan with INEOS is to take a long-term approach. And I think they're hoping that this will turn around. And I know that's not what you want to hear if you're a Ten Hag outer, but the bottom line is INEOS are Ten Hag in. And they want it to work. That doesn't mean you're not going to get what you want. Results will drive what ultimately happens. But if you're somebody that thinks, oh, he's on the verge of the sack, they want to sack him, you couldn't be further from the truth. They've invested in this. They're behind this. They want it to work. The fact is, whether it will work or not, I don't know. Goldbridge, that's the end of the clip. I'm sure you enjoyed it. In fact, I bet that's the best clip you've ever watched. So there's no reason not to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you never miss a clip again. In fact, smash a like on the video because we all know only legends like videos and you are all legends. So please smash a like on the video and we will see you again on the next one. Thank you very much for watching as always.